Dear Sarah, I'm quite fond of you these days. Valentine's Day makes me recall my fondness for you. If you recall, it was 22 years ago this very day that it was February 14th, 1998. If memory serves me right, I believe I was quite fond of you then as well. But if there were such a thing as a fondness scale, then the fondness with which I stepped onto the scale now would cause me to far outweigh the fondness with which I stepped onto the scale then. Or, if there were such a thing as a Valentine that was filled with fondness each year by a little flying Cupid who carried around a quiver full of fondness, then my Valentine would be much fuller now compared to then. Or would it be your Valentine? I'm lost in the fondness metaphor. Where was I? Oh, yes, another fondness metaphor. If you were a fondue, then I would pick you over any other fondue, no matter how delicious the other fondues were, and I would call you Fondness Fondue, because of my fondness for your fondue. Or, better yet, if you were a fountain, and I was Juan Ponce de Leon, and I discovered you, then I would not call you the fountain of youth, but rather the fountain of fondness, because of the fondness that ever flows from your fountain. Or is it my fountain? I'm once again lost in the fondness metaphor. Or perhaps I'm merely lost in my vast sea of fondness for you. Sometimes huge waves of this fondness crash all around me and knock me off course, but it's always okay because I often think of you as an old-fashioned lighthouse whose kerosene or wattage is like my fondness for you. And because it's so strong and ample, you shine really bright and far. And thus my ship, which as I mentioned before is often tossed to and fro by the crashing waves on the sea of fondness, is rescued by your light and brought to safety. But just then, as I was finally about to reach shore and come into your lighthouse, I would be grabbed by a mysterious sea creature whose arms were as long as my fondness for you. In fact, they were your arms, and they were long because of my fondness for you. You see, an ancient curse was put upon you by a rival seafarer whose fondness for you couldn't compete with mine. And so it happened that the more my fondness grew for you, the longer your arms grew until you became a sea monster. And then you drowned me in my own sea of fondness, because my fondness for you was so deep and everlasting. And so I died from too much fondness for you. The end.